just tell us, oftentimes we talk about transparency. What is transparency?
Transparency is an English word that simply means openness. It means that you have removed opaqueness, and you and I can see and feel what it is like. So that is what transparency is all about.
Okay, now in the education sector, what is transparency in distribution of education materials?
Has to do with, when you now talk about distribution, you now know that there are a lot of interests, there are a lot of schools, there are a lot of pupils, there are a lot of communities, there are a lot of beneficiaries to benefit from those materials, those educational materials. And then transparency in doing that has to deal with, how do you acquire those educational materials? The people that these educational materials will serve need to know the sources of these educational materials. You're giving me something, I need to know how you got it, particularly as it concerns a public interest. Public interest in the sense that education is for everyone, particularly in primary and secondary school. They are basic, they are compulsory. That's what the law says, that primary and secondary education are compulsory and they are mandatory and they ought to be free. Therefore, when the materials come, how you distribute it so that community A will not be shortchanged or community B will not be shortchanged. How do you get those materials? From taxpayers' fund and other sources, as we will know as we go on in this program. How these things are gotten, let the people know, so that they won't be over expecting. If community A does not have sufficient educational materials, what it means is that the products, the kind of pupils, the kind of graduates you will get from those communities are going to be less in quality when you compare it to other. So that is why it is transparent. Again, it's also going to make demands to be higher or lower. But if people know what is coming in and how I get, how you get, of course, it will help go a long way to build trust even in government. It's important in the sense that when you make it open, people will bring in their ideas, people will bring in their requests and their demands, and you prioritize it. Because by the time I bring my request from my own community, there is need for supervision before the distribution is made. The officers in charge of distribution, particularly at UBEB, will have to, because it's UBEB that caters, monitors or administers or disburses these materials as it regards primary and secondary schools. That is what the law has specified. That is the agency, that is the board, that is the commission that has been given that statutory rule to do that job.
What about SEB?
SEB is also part of it, but majorly, UBEC is a federal government educational reformative program, a reform program by the federal government to ensure that there is greater access and quality of education at the foundational level. That is the primary and secondary. The materials we talk about come in terms of resources. Resources in personnel, teachers. When we talk about materials in school, the first thing has to be with the teachers, because it is the teachers that actually transform our children into what they will be tomorrow. So human resources is key in educational material. There's also meant to be fence around the school environment, because when you have a security man and you don't have a fence, the possibility of the students going out through so many outlets will be there. But if there is a concerted arena or just a gate where they go, even if there are two, at least there should be security people around there. Particularly now that we know that abduction of school children is in vogue in Nigeria. So there is need for security as part of the educational materials, because if you don't have security, that is why we keep having the Chibok incident and other abduction of school children in schools. Then we need mobility for our school children. Many of them come from distant areas. Many of them can't access education or usually come late to school because they don't have facility or mobility to bring them to school. I know in the time past, our schools used to have a school bus. But today, how many schools have a school bus? Yeah, that is why you have budget. When an issue is paramount in a society like education, then there must be budgetary allocation for it. And that is the responsible of the Ministry of Education to ensure that those things, those programs, those activities that will make education to be qualitative and accessible must be budgeted for.
What are the other materials?
So the other materials can come in terms of infrastructure. We have talked about human. We are going to talk about infrastructure. When you talk about infrastructure, the only thing that comes to mind in Nigeria readily when you talk about infrastructure in schools is only school building, classrooms. But of course not. There are complementary infrastructure that will help school buildings to thrive. And things like laboratory, labs. How many schools today have labs? How many have libraries? Many now depend on internet and all that. But you still know, you and I know too well that the libraries are still very important. But schools don't have libraries again. We have halls. Halls are places where students can do events. One of those events is the morning assembly. That is part and core of educational system. In the morning, the students need to be given that orientation of, first of all, thanking God for the day, and then taking instructions from the principal. Because of the school, the head teacher. The head teacher has a duty on daily basis to assemble the children and give them one word or two that will help them for the day. When it is not done, you see lapse, a lot of lapse in the society. That morning assembly helps a lot. He might just drop one advice that a student can be the thing that will take that student the whole lifetime. Then, apart from the halls, we equally need water and toilets in schools. Why do we need water and toilet in schools? For wash issues. Wash is water, hygiene, and sanitation. They are very key. How does it affect the pupils? The girls usually absent themselves from schools because they don't have, during their menses, they don't have where to go and change. They don't have where to go and urinate. And you know, girls need privacy a lot when it comes to issue of urinating, toilet, menstruation. Water is also important because if that girl goes to change, after changing, she needs to wash off and then clean herself, change her pad, and come back to class. So you find out that most girls during that period, their menstrual period, will absent themselves from school because the schools do not have these facilities. Some have, some don't have. That is where the even distribution or transparency in distribution comes in. So these are things that are very necessary in schools. The other things, the labs, the laptops or computers which are used today in learning. I was in the university. I read computer science. I never saw a computer. I never knew that computer is as easy as what you will now see today. But I got A in computer science, yet I never saw a computer. I was only being tutored the parts of computer and I crammed them in order to pass, and that's all. But that is not qualitative education. If I had cited a computer, it would be very easy for me. At least by citing it, you now know the physical parts of that computer before you talk about the internal parts. So students, they need these laptops. Today, assignments are done online. And they have to start early to begin to have that knowledge and that training.
For adaptation.
Yes. And then books.
Please, could you tell us your name? And where you come from?
I'm calling from Ebonyi in Zanot.
You're who, sorry?
Moba Solomon.
Okay, Solomon Moba. Okay. Alright.
First of all, I wish to appreciate our guest. In fact, he is being sincere. Not being economical with the truth. But my question now is, how do we correct this anomaly? Because as it stands now, most of the schools in the hinterland, those of them in the villages, we may have up to 5 teachers, but in attendance, what we'll be having each day is 1 or 2. Those schools in the villages, who is talking about security, that one is no longer there. In terms of infrastructure, what they do in some schools, they have already divided it into 4. 3 parts they use it for farming, including some buildings. Why one part is only used for education? You see one house, housing primary 1 to 6. That's what is happening currently. We're not even talking about those computers or whatever. We're looking at least basic education. How can all these things be corrected?
Part of it, you have mentioned it, is supervision. There is nothing again you can do. It's like having children in the house and then you don't monitor what they do. Of course, they will be reckless. They will behave anyhow. But if you monitor what happens within a setting, people are going to sit up.
That is not recruitment. Go to our villages today, who are living in the rural area. Only you can see 2 or 3 teachers in the whole school, which is not like that in our own time. Every class is supposed to have 1 teacher. That's not fair. Talking about the reading material, this material. Teachers, when they come to school now, let me tell you what's happening in the villages now.
Okay.
Who are in the town there. What's happening there is that when they come, they go and register them and go there, go to their farm or go to the business. Their payment is not up to their work. Now, some of them are making that naira, some of them 50 naira. So you cannot send them. So that's what the government has to treat. Because they're talking about material, the distribution of material. Now this is dwindling the educational system in the state. Then I'm a good teacher. Many have retired. Many have resigned. Many have go to school. They cannot understand.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Number 3.
All right. Yes, Mr. Innocent. Innocent.
Let them come and do all those things very well.
Thank you. All right, sir.
Thank you so much. When we started, we enumerated what educational materials are, and we first emphasized on human materials, which include teachers. We talked about it. It's a pity you just joined the program. Thank you so much for your observation. We are very grateful to you, sir.
Could you tell us your name and where you call from?
Okay. Good morning, Unity.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, this is Ebonyi reaching you from Amechi, Huku local government area of the state.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tuma.
Yes, let me salute the Ministry of Education in the Ebonyi State. The ministry is doing well. I really appreciate them. And the issue of teachers recruitment, I want to encourage them because we have some school in our rural areas that have one teacher in 1 class or the school. Understand? I want them to recruit more teachers in the rural area. And the issue of material distribution, some school in the rural area doesn't have a especially in the primary sector. And also board, I want them to do more so that we will have a conducive and comfortable education.
Thank you, sir.
Rural area. Thank you.
Yes, lack of teachers, so insufficient teachers is a major issue they have. Before you talk about other facilities, education, books, and all that. Well, I think the authorities are listening.
I think so too.
And we hope that with this enlightenment and gathering what people have experienced and their concerns, that they would do the needful.
An improvement.
Yes. Madam, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks
for being
much.
here.
Thanks a lot.
And to you, esteemed listener, we thank you for being part of this program, for your contributions, questions. You have been wonderful. We expect that you will participate in this program by next week.